Welcome to this mini surgery support session for experienced teachers. The topic is addressing slow lesson pace, and the session's designed for people who are observing other teachers and giving feedback. So this is a train the trainer session. Okay. All right. So, come on. The observation. You've been in the classroom and what you saw was an inexperienced teacher with very slow lesson pace. It was a bit like walking in toffee. The students consequently were visibly bored and disengaged, playing with their phones, with each other, looking out of the window, definitely off task. And off-task behaviour increases throughout the lesson. So they may be quiet but start getting rowdier and rowdier. Particularly if you're working with young learners, pace is critical to management. Okay. So the possible causes are, it lay in planning, in time management. It might be about anxiety or low awareness on the part of the teacher. So your challenge is to work out how to give supportive but actionable feedback. So the objective of any feedback giver is to create a useful tool for the teacher that helps them to improve their teaching, makes their life a whole lot easier. So keep that in your mind. The goal is to improve your teacher's life by improving their teaching. Nobody wants to be a bad teacher. They want to improve, especially in this very competitive day and age when being a good teacher really can, especially if you're teaching online for yourself, you need to be the best you can in order to keep students coming back and paying for your lessons. So pace is a critical factor in student satisfaction with the class. Okay, so I've said here, step one from your point of view is check feelings first. I would say, yes, they will be very nervous from the observation, particularly if they're a new teacher, but even experienced teachers get anxious. What really works well is to give a post-lesson reflection task. There is one on the website I'll show you later. So ask the teacher to how they felt about the lesson, what worked, what didn't work, what they would do differently, and they submit that to you before the feedback. That allows you to set the pitch of where you're giving. I mean, if the teacher sits down and says, that was, not such a good lesson, the pace was too slow because ... whoa, then you move on to the next thing that you may want to talk about. Great. But if the teacher says, I think it went really well and everybody enjoyed the class and there was a nice atmosphere, then you know that your starting point is going to lay in your evidence that disputes the fact that it was such a good class. Okay. One more thing. A lot of trainers or DOSs, academic managers, sit and observe other people's lessons, but they seem to get out the habit of being observed themselves. It's a good practice. It reminds you how scary it can be. Even I'm massively experienced and I still think, and it reminds me that we're human and I don't think there is such a thing as a perfect lesson. I've yet to see it and I've certainly yet to give it. And that reminder helps us when we're setting up the observation and feedback. Okay. You've got an inexperienced teacher. If this was an experienced teacher, it'd be a different story. But the new teacher, they're juggling, oh my God, what are the instructions? What am I got to do next? What's the next task? Oh, please, please, please don't let a student ask me a difficult question. We see this on training courses. This trainee teacher sets up the task and then runs back to their notes to see what they're doing next, completely unaware of the students. And awareness of the students is quite a late acquired skill. Very, very few initial trainees on initial training courses can do it. The best ones can, and they are always straight A's. Interestingly, even with experienced teachers, but presents in different ways, that learner awareness is low, or it can be low. Okay, so the result of all of this is they're not always fully present to student needs. They don't know what the students are doing. So keep that in mind, acknowledge the pressure. Teachers being observed are under huge pressure. So have you, of course, but they're not going to be supportive of that. Okay, go to the plan. I don't like observing a lesson without seeing the plan first. If you can possibly avoid it, do it. And the first place to go to is the lesson aims and stage aims. My guess with a teacher with weak paces, they don't always know what the aim of the thing is. They have no idea, particularly if they're working from a course book where they just kind of go through activity, activity, activity. So check they understand the aims, or if they're weak, check if the aims were achievable in the time given, and did the activity match the aim? That often happens, I've got no idea. Okay, so poor planning leads to, imbalance of timing, really. They overplan some activities get way too much time, and they don't recognise when to move on. So, for example, in the course book, often the speaking task might be 2 lines at the sort of right-hand bottom corner of a double-page spread. So they get the idea that this is not an important task, whereas an experienced teacher will think, that's the end goal. That's probably where I want to put most of my time. Although, it's deceptive, because when you look at the course book, so many teachers are trained by the course book. They don't understand that actually that's the biggest thing, but there's not enough material there. So, the balance can be very wrong in lessons. Step 3, remind them of the 2/3 rule. It's a golden rule. Stop when 70% of the class have finished this task. Why it works. It keeps the majority engaged on the task, keeps things moving, prevents boredom of task behaviour, get the slower learners to finish it as homework, and it's better than waiting for 100% completion. Now, there is an argument to say that you could have an extension task for fast finishers. Great idea, can be very difficult in practice. The teacher will have a meltdown because, how they've got then to juggle when both activities finish, how are you going to do the feedback on the 2 tasks? And when they're first set out, they were trying to work in lockstep, everybody doing everything together. It takes experienced teachers to be able to put students in working groups and keep each group working at its own pace. So ways around it are quick finishers can do journals, for example, something that the teacher can take in and mark at a point when they've got some time. Okay, so teach them to actively monitor. Okay, so I'm going to come back to that bit. When you do the feedback, don't just tell them, show them what you mean. You're sitting with somebody who's not sure if they're, still got a job after the observation. If they're a new teacher, they'll have no idea if the lesson was a car crash or a, fantastic new bestseller. Maybe they'll know that, but they won't know the difference between the weak and the middling lesson. And they have a real problem, A, remembering the lesson because they've been so stressed, and B, assessing the lesson. They just got through. They're still breathing. For them, that's pretty much a success. So show them. Your explanation will probably just go over their head. Snappy transitions, you want to do it, then take something that they did and show them what you would do. What does a snappy transition look like? Show active monitoring practice. Okay, so this is the stand up, scan the room, breathe, and then move down. Okay? Or you show them how to monitor without interrupting the flow. Walking around, looking over the shoulder at the work so that you're not sort of facing in and disturbing them. So give them some monitoring skills, I also have a rolly chair that I move around, and I sort of do the sort of shoulder sideways thing on my rolly chair. I can get quite good speeds on that. Okay, practice scripted instructions. It should be 30 words or less. In today's technology, if you can record the lesson, get the tape script, look at some of the instruction chunks, and scrub out all the words that can be taken out. So script instructions. So also with instructions, get them to stay in the same place when they instruct, raise their voice, don't start, clap, wait until you've got everyone's attention, instruct, wait, check. And remember to tell them instructions start with a verb. Open your books, page 32, compared to, please open your books if you don't mind, to page 32. Starting with a verb is one of the best tips that you can give a new teacher. Start with a verb on your instructions. They're worried about being polite. Great, use a good tone. Make sure they've got a clock that they can see. Usually you put the clock in the teacher's eye line, but behind the student so they can't see it. But give them the tools. Nobody wants to sort of look at their watch too much when people are on task. Oops, hang on. So act it out. Act out reading the room. Act out transitions and scripting. Okay, key takeaways. Remember to start with empathy. They're likely to be really nervous. Use evidence. Record either the recording of the lesson, use a graph that shows every minute you take a note of 3 students. Are they on task? Tick, off task, cross. Or rewrite the lesson plan with the timings that you would use for it and let them sort of compare the differences. So remember, model. Don't just explain. Show them how. Take away what, show them what you mean. Do not assume that they know what you mean. Be direct. Clear feedback helps. Don't, sandwich it. Be kind. But remember that you're trying to create a very practical tool for them going forward. And you can do that with almost every level of teacher and experience. So give them, it's a normal process. Give them concrete tools. So scripting, let them watch your lessons, let them do some peer observation. They could make some videos of themselves setting up tasks, send them to you for feedback, get their peers to look at it, make it actionable. Okay, and remember to follow up. Go back in a week or two and say, how's it going? Before the next observation. Okay. So, all of this is on a handout, plus lots of other lovely ideas, which you can, and the handout's called Slow Paced New Teacher, and it's a bellhop TESOL. Lots of information, it's under the observation handouts. Lots of great information on there, and there's also a reflective piece for teachers after the class, which you can give to your teacher, and that helps you pitch your feedback. All of this is based on my book, Masterclass and Lesson Observation and Feedback, absolutely designed for new lesson observers. Also, any questions or comments, leave them in the box and I promise we'll try to get back to you. Okay, I hope you found this useful. Keep an eye out, there are more surgery sessions coming.